welcome back to the Beats by Travis podcast. We are back, and I am your host, Travis Smith. Today on the podcast, I have my friend Robert Locke, who's also my partner in the Arkansas music experience. We've been longtime friends and been working together in the Northwest Arkansas music scene on many ventures. And we're going to dive into a little bit about the Arkansas music experience, about Arkansas Music Week, some of the events that's going to be going on that week, diving into the Arkansas Music and Film Office ventures that he's been working on, and talk a little bit more about his history. But before we dive into that, if you guys haven't subscribed to the podcast, we're going to be having new episodes coming back out pretty soon. I've got a lot of events. Since the last time I actually did this podcast, I have been growing a business, started a marketing company, working in restaurant marketing, event management, event marketing, different music venues, and all types of different stuff. So this podcast is going to be a digital sidecar, if you will, for me to be able to build content behind the scenes, doing stuff like that, talking to some of the clients that I work with, some of the partners that I have in projects and ventures around Northwest Arkansas and beyond, and anything really pertaining to people that are building something out of nothing, and people that have kind of built their own way in their business, or really making waves within the music or hospitality community, or music and hospitality community, because that is where I am from. So if you dig what you're hearing, subscribe to the podcast. If you want to sponsor the podcast, reach out to me at travis@travissmithproductions.com. I've been working around Northwest Arkansas for around 20 years now in those fields that I mentioned earlier. So being able to be connected to so many businesses around the area, that's kind of what my business is about, is creating marketing materials and digital content that builds a scene and builds a community. So let's go ahead and dive into the podcast today and get Robert Locke on here. Robert, I call you Robbie, but yeah. It's perfectly timed though, with the dynamite drop in that saves me so much on editing, and therefore I appreciate that. So thank you for coming on today. I know we've been talking about getting some form of way of creating content. This aligns with the time that I'm able to get this podcast up and going again. But it comes around the time that, we have a lot of things that we've kicked up, a lot of dust that we've kicked up in the area, and some pretty wild ventures, if I must say so myself. And we'll go ahead and dive into that. But let's go ahead and let's tell the people, for the folks that don't know who you are, kind of tell... first off, thank you for coming on and being a part.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So talk about, your background. Where are you from? And then talk a little bit about your history in the music industry.
I'm originally from Pine Bluff, and I moved to Northwest Arkansas, Fayetteville, in 2003. And I was only here about 2 years, kind of gigging around, jamming with local folks. And then I got noticed by a gentleman by the name of Charlie Briscoe, who managed Skinnerd, and he put me on the radar of a guy named Donnie Frizzell, who was like a old local promoter around here that kind of grew up in the Black Oak, Arkansas circle with Butch Stone and all that, and they connected me with this band out of Orange County, California, called Laidlaw, and they were sort of like a precursor to like Blackberry Smoke, that kind of stuff, and I had an opportunity to join that band, and I wasn't really sure if I wanted to do or not, but then I saw who they were touring with, and I was like, man, they're on tour with Van Halen right now. Like, maybe I should open this door and see where it goes. So I ended up joining that band, and I spent 4 years, touring with Skinnerd and ZZ Top, Shooter Jennings, Pat Travers, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, stuff like that. After that, I basically left that band, and I ended up hooking up with ex-Ozzy Osbourne guitarist Joe Holmes. And we formed a band in, I guess it'd be like 2012. We formed a band called Pharmacos. We wrote a record, a self-titled record. It featured Brooks Wackerman from Bad Religion, who's now he plays drums for Avenged Sevenfold now. And then we had, the mighty Robert Trujillo on bass. Put the record out. It did pretty well. We didn't tour. And I ended up getting my time taken up by a venture called Shindig Music. So I ended up not doing really anything with Joe for, maybe 6 or 7 years, something like that. And then, as COVID hit, Shindig, ended during COVID. I found myself getting phone calls from those guys again, and they told me that they were writing some new songs and wanted to know if I'd be interested in singing. So next thing I know, I was making a record with Joe and Robert, and this time we had Faith No More's Mike Borden in tow. So we put that record out June 3rd, and it's doing pretty good, getting some decent attention. And
yeah, and it's kind of cool, So you and I are in this messenger group with Kim, who's the third piece of the Arkansas Music Experience, and we'll dive into that in just a second. But, I mean, while we're doing things outside of our group, it's like you're releasing these crazy releases, but then the news of things like the vinyl selling out,
it's almost sold out. We actually just shipped the final 2 boxes yesterday.
And so that's been a while, though, having a new release come out. So what's that experience been like?
It's kind of been stressful. The way the distribution model is for music now just sucks. Streaming sucks. It doesn't pay very well. Most places that are going to stock a physical record or online, they get it for an incredibly cheap cost. So anytime you're buying a vinyl, off of Amazon or any other one of these online retailers, the artist isn't really making very much off of that mosquito. So it's just been kind of it was essentially trying to find a distribution deal, which we did do with Org Music. So they've been taking pretty good care of us. Vinyl's really expensive. It's almost a lost art form. You do a different mastering process with a vinyl than you would a digital release. So it took us quite a while to find someone who was able to recapture what we did, on tape and put it on vinyl without us losing, a bunch of our like sonic frequencies. You would lose the low end here, or it's like all the mids got scooped out with this guy. So once we found this gentleman, guy named Nick Townsend, he got connected to us by Evil Joe Barresi. So if you're like a fan of Tool and Deftones, Queen of the Stone Age, that's the guy who makes their records. Nick did an amazing job. I don't have my copy yet. It'll be here in probably the next 2 or 3 weeks. And so I'm going to take that whole day off so I can do a little bit of self-worshiping there. But other than that, I mean, doing the release was, fun. It's always fun because, you've been stewing on these songs for a couple years, and now you're waiting to put it out there just to see what the response is going to be. And of course, the response has been tremendous. So
awesome. Well, let's shift gears a little bit and let's dive into the Arkansas Music Experience. We talked about Shindig earlier being, that was a media company that we had for, what is it, like 5 or 6 years?
It was like a little over 4, something like that.
So, we did podcasts. We had an FM radio show playing artists across the state.
TV show.
Yep, the TV show. So now, pandemic comes. We happen to be getting nominated to I believe it was the Northwest Arkansas Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
For the media stuff that we were doing, and
which was actually a surprise because I don't think any of us really realized that we made an impact like that to
totally 100%
be included in something like that. So at first when it happened, it was like, why are we being inducted? And then then it was kind of like, oh, this is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool. So whenever we got in there and we got together, the vibe of that event, of getting the people back in the room, felt like an event that we'll talk about later, the Music Industry Meetup, which kind of got the proverbial band back together of us working together on something again because the pandemic shut down the music
showed
industry.
Up, it was you, me, Kim, and Dave, and sadly Justin Bates couldn't be there because of Stacy, but the response that the room gave us, just them seeing, the 4 of us standing there together. It's
cool to be known for like connecting folks.
Yeah,
it's not like we did something. It's just getting the right people together. It's nice to have.
A lot of people coming up like, "Hey, are you guys like getting back together?" Or kind of like, "No," and just kept getting that. And then it wasn't maybe 2 or 3 weeks later that we actually you and me and Kim started actually chatting like, well, what can we do that's not this?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where the Arkansas Music Experience came from, because the goal is essentially the same. We're trying to build or boost whatever you prefer. We're trying to build and boost the commercial industry in Arkansas. And after 4 years of promoting bands and concerts and venues, you learn pretty quickly that the talent issue here is like non-existent. We've got endless amounts of talent, great bands, great musicians in every single genre, but our industry's infrastructure is kind of lacking. So when you go to a state like a Texas or Tennessee, you see a much bigger, more organized infrastructure. It's a legitimate music business there. And like the music industry has been kind of breaking down back to the old school regional model, like before the 70s, because, before everything got consolidated, you had like Memphis was a major music hub. You had Stax Records there and Bell Records, and then Motown was in Detroit, and you had Muscle Shoals down in Alabama, and you had like a Jacksonville, Florida scene, and all these regional scenes were putting out tons of music. And that's what everybody was listening to until everything kind of got consolidated to just being the East and West Coast. And now that's kind of breaking down again. And we're seeing that, especially with Arkansas, and we're having that cultural moment where, Ashley McBryde and Jesse Wells and Sawyer Hill, Yeba, lots of artists breaking on a national level from Arkansas. So you're starting to see that regional surge again. And that's kind of, it was a good time for us to get back together as Arkansas Music Experience, because if we all unify as a state, we can have 5 more Jesse Wells. You can have 5 more Ash McBrides. You simply got to connect all the music scenes and everyone work together and try to promote one another.
What would you say the Arkansas Music Experience is about? So, somebody hears it, they hear the mission of kind of what we're about, but what exactly, there's the history element that we look at. There's so many artists around the state that have done so many things that are at the front line of that genre.
Yeah.
So, to tell the story of that, the voice of Arkansas music to basically the world.
Well, I know from being a musician from Arkansas, when you leave Arkansas, like I tell the story where, you go on tour with Skynyrd, and, after the first show, they come back there and be like, hey, man, you're a hell of a singer. Like, where are you from? And you say, I'm from Arkansas. And it's immediately like, you get that look. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, you dudes are from Florida. Like, what's up with that? Or, Billy Gibbons and CZ Top would be like,
it's a band of Florida man.
Yeah. So
Florida
it was
man
like,
band. I
picked up right away that, it's us in Mississippi that tend to get the brunt of the jokes of southern states. And, to me, it's unfair on a musical level because, we have Louis Jordan, and he essentially invented rock and roll. And we have Johnny Cash. I mean, next to Hank Williams Jr., is there a bigger country music icon than Johnny Cash? The first major country music superstar was a girl named Patsy Montana from Hot Springs, and she was like a national superstar. So we have this amazing musical heritage that has, for whatever reason, just been stuck in the closet and largely ignored unless your name is Johnny Cash. So I think a lot of Arkansas musicians kind of feel, the fact that we're not on a coast and that we're here in Arkansas, there's no real future for them in this industry, which is the furthest thing from the truth. So I think reminding people that, at one time Arkansas was a cultural force in popular music and that we could be again, I think it's a good inspirational thing for musicians to not feel like just because I'm in Arkansas doesn't mean something can't happen for me.
Well, I think if you look at like being inspired, seeing someone that or someone, like seeing, for instance, I think it was some event, like I believe it was the last Falltoberfest. I saw Sawyer just walking down the street, hanging out
I ran into him at Walmart during Christmas.
Mm-hmm. So you'll see Sawyer Hill going on tour with Youngblood all over the world, then you see him in your hometown shopping at the grocery store. So I think seeing that it is possible for someone from your patch of dirt to be able to do something like that. Somebody said something I think it was you somebody said something about how we talk about current acts or something a lot now or something. I don't know if it was you or somebody, but they were referencing the fact that a lot of the times when we're talking about things, it's about things that are going on now or the future of things.
Yes, I was on a music panel during the Music Cities convention, and it was like me, I think 4 or 5 other people on stage, and everyone that was being talked to was supposed to be talking about, what are you doing right now in Arkansas music? And every single person's, except for me, their focus was on historical. So there were two gentlemen who were working on historical markers being set up around the state to like say this is where Glenn Campbell was born, or this is where Amy Lee of Evanescence was born, and like all those things are wonderful, but no one was focused on anything contemporary. And then I start talking, and I'm like, Johnny Cash doesn't need my help. I mean, his career is doing great, and he's dead. So like, what do I need to talk about him for? But I'd much rather talk about, Ashley McBryde or Tyler Kinch or Waylon Wyatt or Trey Penley, one of the other country artists who haven't quite hit that level, and like, let's help him get to that level. Like Johnny Cash doesn't need me.
From the industry that they're in, they're the big up and coming people, and they're from here, so they're looking at Arkansas, wondering, well, what's going on in Arkansas that they're producing all of these folks over here? All we're doing is just noticing what's around us.
And going back to that point of seeing people do something on a national level and how it hits you. I was actually out in LA recording. It was Easter weekend, so we went to a friend of my guitarist's house, and there was like a bunch of heavy people there. Musician over here, there's this guy who's like a comedian, this person works in TV, they're all like heavy.
It's like a Hollywood party.
Yeah, it's like, typical LA stuff. And I had been talking to them about, Jesse and Sawyer and like what they're doing on online numbers and, just the attention they're getting. And my guitarist, Joe, was like, hey, what's that kid from Fayetteville you're talking about? I was like, Sawyer Hill. And it was like 3 people at that party were like, Sawyer Hill. And then all of a sudden I became the coolest guy in the room because I knew who Sawyer was. And it was kind of a mind trip for me because I just wasn't expecting to be in LA and like half the room know who Sawyer Hill was. So that was kind of like a oh shit. Like he's crossed that line now to where it's not like just one person that might know who he was. It was like all these people. And I was like, well, how do you know about him? Like, oh, my kids are really into him. So everybody's kids were already aware of Sawyer, and the parents were aware, and it was just kind of, I immediately got on the phone and started messaging Sawyer like, dude, it's like they all know who you are here.
So we started Arkansas Music Experience. We brought back the Music Industry Meetup, an event that we did with Shindig that we can talk about because we have some that we need to talk about here in a little bit. But we also were approached to do Arkansas Music Week, by, through Music Cities being in town. We were asked to help, talk to some folks in the area and help produce some shows or help see if they can produce some shows. And so we put together.
Yeah, it was like Music Cities was in town, and, we had gotten asked to, we were asked if we were interested in doing, extra music programming, because at the time, this Music Cities convention, they travel around cities across the globe that are, quote unquote music cities. And here they were in Fayetteville, which had been dubbed the Music City. And for the majority of the time they were here, there was no music taking place.
Yeah, it's hard to do on a Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah. So that was kind of how that happened. And just in the conversation I had with Experience Fayetteville and Arkansas Tourism, I was like, well, what if we just call this week Arkansas Music Week, and we just have music everywhere the whole damn week, and then maybe we can piggyback off of this Music Cities convention and build something for Arkansas. And they were like, this sounds great. And we got the go ahead to do it like 2 months later, and in 2 weeks we put together, I think it was like 36 shows, and we had like 11 venues participating.
I think it's really cool, for a lot of festivals that you'll be putting on, this is not something that we've curated ourselves. A lot of times somebody might see, well, I saw what you were putting on and I want to see about how I could do that for myself. This is literally an event that is literally see how you can be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, our role in it is that we're not the promoters.
I guess we're the promoters because we're promoting it, but not
but it's
the
not like
industry promoter.
Yeah, it's not like the traditional promoter. I mean, we were more like the motivational coach. And we, we reach out to George's, and it's like, hey, George's, this is what we want to do. And they're like, okay, we're in. And then you go to Kingfish, and then you go to West End, then you go to Prairie Street Live, and eventually you go to all the venues and say, this is what we want to do. This is how long it is. We would love for you to add music every single day of the week if possible, but we understand if you can't. But whatever you can do, we'll consolidate it all into this 1 week, Arkansas Music Week. Let's see what happens. It worked last year. We pulled a little over 4,000 people to town. So you were going to shows at, Kingfish on a Monday, and there's 250 people there, which typically there's not 250 people at a Monday show.
It was cool to hear people saying what I heard at South by Southwest, which was, what shows are you going to today? And they said it in a way that would imply that they had been to a show already.
Yeah.
And it was like Wednesday.
Yeah. So like with this year, it was kind of like, let's do the same thing again. And we went from 11 venues to now I think we're sitting at 20 venues. It's 18 or 20 venues that are involved. I know we got 2 that still haven't given us what they're giving us to the events or whatever, but it'll be at 20. We're already over like 60 events. So when I say we're not the promoters in this sense, it's that everybody's really the promoter here, because this is about as grassroots DIY as you can get, because everyone's working together. All the venues are working together. We all try to communicate with one another to make sure that if there's a big country show happening here, don't do one over here at the same time, so you split that audience. Everybody was very courteous with one another.
They're showing up to represent themselves.
Yes.
They do this all the time. And so the people that engage with the local community the most have been the people that have been the most interested in it.
Yeah, because I figure, everyone that's involved in this, they all have a financial stake in our music community. Mm-hmm. So, this is a benefit to everybody that, we're able to do this. And the amazing thing of this is that, they need a lot of, a big thanks is Experience Fayetteville. Because, without them, we'd all be doing this, basically for free. But, Experience Fayetteville was very kind enough to open their community fund up and allow venues to basically request funding from that, and it would cover the music events they do. Expands their programming. Yeah. So, if you're able
to get $500 for
a
venue to be able to help.
Yeah, so if you do music on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they're not going to give you money for that. But if you suddenly add Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then all of a sudden, boom, you've added something beyond your traditional programming. So we've been able to help a couple of venues cover the costs of what they're doing. So
it's been really cool to see places like, I work with Moxie and Stonebreaker. So I have a little bit more of a personal relationship with them, and we can dig into that in a little bit on some of the things I do there. But it's been really cool to see like Moxie and,
Yeah, they have like 8 days of music.
Yeah, like Lauren's calling and she's like, hey, what do you think she asked me, what do you think about expanding the calendar for some extra days? And then it got to, I believe it was like Monday or Wednesday or something like that. And the most like unassuming days.
Yeah.
And I was like, would you be willing to just do these other 2 just to round it out? There was no hesitation whatsoever. She was down to do it. And now Moxie has like 8 days of music the whole time. And there's a few places there, I believe. Does Kingfish have that?
I think they are doing music
almost every day.
8 days. It might be 7 days. But they also, we had a venue that dropped out, and Kingfish stepped up, and suddenly they've got 2 different shows on both Sundays. So they have an early show and a late show just to, help fill that void or whatever.
It's been awesome. It's almost like people picking up the slack for one another, making sure the artists are taken care of. And if you look at what would we want to see happen out of this is if, the idea is that we're going to get as much dust kicked up around the Arkansas music scene or the Northwest Arkansas Fayetteville area that we can, so that if you're there and you want to go out every night, you should be able to see every genre of music. You get to see the promoters that are here throwing shows.
Yeah,
between
live music, we've got exhibitions.
Let's dive into that a little bit, because we were putting together. Robbie and I are working on the website. Like, we're doing this. We're not like hiring. Like, we're the computer nerds. We're not hiring anybody. So we're sitting there building the website. We're plugging in stuff. We're building links and stuff. So if you guys notice some links not working, feel free to reach out to us and give us some slack. We're not exactly like the geek squad.
People love to send me, hey, you got a typo here.
Which is fine. We need that. It'd be better if we had like a filter.
Paul.
Yeah, it'd be nice if it wasn't the public, but like it is nice to have at least. But so we have it. But we had these events, we had concerts going on at places, and we started to see, if we look at like the model of this, obviously it's very similar to South by Southwest, which, we've talked about in the past how much of their music funding got cut. or
Well,
music funding or their music programming?
It's like over half of it now because it's no longer a music-focused festival. It's film, tech, and comedy, and that's largely due to Austin having a quite shift in demographic of what's living there. Big tech came there and started building high rises. You got a big comedy scene there, and most of the musicians kind of got pushed out. So it was inevitable that South by Southwest was going to have to transition to something else.
I think the idea, the way though it activates the whole downtown, is kind of what we liked about it. So, we see it as a way we can have multiple things going on, but it can't just be literally just music the whole time. We wanted to celebrate kind of the history of music. We wanted to have some networking events and kind of,
Well, it's like one of the first. Well, I mean, one of the first things before we ever, other than our meetup being like on that calendar, it was like, what can we do on a historical level? And then it was like the next day, Walton Art Center announced their Leave on Helm exhibit, and it was starting in like I think July, but it was going to run until September, and it's like, oh, this falls right in line with Music Week. Let me reach out to them, and all of a sudden, hey, we've got 9 different showings during Music Week for this Leave on Helm exhibit, which is incredible. So you can go downtown to the Alexander Gallery at Walton Art Center, check out the exhibit, and then hit a show at George's or West End or Kingfish, or but then we've got things that aren't necessarily like live music. Corey McKelvey's doing a community jam and potluck at Naturebacks, so it's like bring some food.
That'll be on Monday night.
Yeah, so bring some food or don't bring some food. Bring an instrument or don't bring it. An instrument. But it's like the premise from Corey was like, just come vibe with us. Like this is just about getting together and hanging out, and that's something that a lot of musicians we don't actually get to do, and that's why one of the reasons the Meetup is so successful, at least in my opinion, is that everyone's usually playing a show, recording, out of town, everybody's doing something. So all of a sudden when you have 350 musicians in the same market all in this room at the same time, the vibe just explodes. Awesome. Yeah.
So, and for folks, that Music Industry Meetup, that's our Tuesday night networking event that we produce, where there's vendors set up, anybody that works within the music industry or around it, videographers, photographers, managers, booking agents, venues, anything like that. Just come and hang out. You'll see your peers. You'll get to you make connections. There's been so many connections made at this marriage or two.
I told someone yesterday in an interview that we tell people at every meetup to say hello to the people but more importantly, introduce yourself to the people you don't know, because that's how you actually connect. If you only work with the people you already know, then you're not really moving forward. But you open that friends list up by, now I know this person, I know her, I know him, I know her now. Opportunities arise that way. You can accelerate everything you're doing by having more connections.
It's a real event. It's like, I mean, we personally call people that do real things and ask them to come to this to meet the artists that really play in the area. So it's curated by folks that do stuff.
So we did one last year in Fayetteville at George's, and at that event, we had some musicians that came up to us, and they were like, man, I've been in Fayetteville for a year and a half. He's like, I've been wanting to join a band, just find someone to play with, and I end up meeting this guy, and him and his buddy have been looking for the same type of situation. He's like, so we're going to get together this weekend and see what happens. Fast forward 6 months, we're back in Fayetteville at George's for a music industry meetup during Music Week, and those 4 guys come up and say, hey, remember us? And we got together and jammed, like, hey, we have our first show, and it was like a brewery in Rogers. And it's like that event was a catalyst for a new band forming, simply because they were looking for the same thing, and they came to that event trying to figure out how to solve that issue, and that issue was solved, and they met people.
That's awesome. Yeah. I just remember certain times of even remember Tracy in Eureka Springs coming and telling me that she fulfilled a whole singer-songwriter series from one of our events that she was looking for.
Like in El Dorado, we had a band that came down from Little Rock. Since we were at MAD 101 at Murphy Arts District, they were able to connect with Murphy Arts District, and all of a sudden they picked up a couple gigs. And
it's real. You just got to get in the room. And starting my business, that's one thing. Like I work with networking events with Hive, and I work with Patio Social, and I love it there. Like I've met so many people around the area where even if you're not working together, just knowing what other people do, because you never know whenever somebody's gonna be like, do you know anybody that does blank?
Yeah,
And
like,
it's
oh
just,
yeah, I know that.
you're
Yeah,
now a
that guy
resource.
does. Yeah,
You're in the scene, man.
yeah,
So that's Tuesday night. Wednesday night, another AME event is the Art of the Show. This
Yeah.
was Kim's idea that is awesome. It's a good
yeah.
one.
Because it's like, in the digital world we're in, a concert flyer is becoming a scarcity now. You don't really see a lot of venues printing them and hanging them. It's mainly something that's just on Facebook or whatever. We're also in the area where AI has now appeared, and you have a lot of dissension online and a lot of resistance to AI art. So that's why this Art of the Show event is cool, because we're trying to bring awareness to the physical printing form of art promotion with music. And there's a huge subculture of people who collect posters and handbills and like physical tickets. Like, when's the last time you've been to an amp show that you got a physical ticket? It's been a while, but we used to all collect those as kids. I still have my stubs from the 90s of seeing Pearl Jam or whatever. So it's kind of an art form that's kind of got pushed aside in the digital area. So with this event, we're encouraging artists who make flyers for other bands to come to this event and show off your work. It's kind of like show and tell. And we're hoping that we can encourage more musicians to reach out to local artists to have them develop their flyers and album art or T-shirt designs or whatever else. But we also encourage music fans to bring posters from past shows and tell the stories behind them. Because if we can get people excited about a physical flyer and a poster again, to me, it's important.
Yeah, 100%. It's like that was the extension of their artistry, of their band and stuff like that of that time. And it's like so many iconic artists that would go do so many of these albums and stuff like that. It's like gives you another level of.
Well, it's like, there's famous artists who their whole job is creating concert posters for touring bands. I mean, most of the artists that are coming through the AMP, they're going to have a $65, $70 poster at their merch stand. It's not created by a local artist, but they hired some national artist to just, hey, we want to hire you to do 15 shows. And all of a sudden you got 15 different designs. All those designs become highly collectible right after that show because they're all limited run. And there's a billion-dollar industry in collecting posters. So it'd be really cool to come to the event and someone bring flyers in. 'Cause I know Kim's got a bunch of stuff. We've got a bunch of stuff from our friend Stacy B, who's no longer with us. So we're going to show off some of her stuff. Maybe we can get people inspired to hire real artists and save some of the frustration that our music scene's having with the sudden advancement of AI and the terrible looking flyers that are just invading our Facebook.
I like them. I think they look great.
It's like, for the record, I'm not like anti-AI on the flyer design. I'm just anti-shitty looking art, and a lot of that stuff just looks terrible.
It really does.
I don't even have to say which one it is. Everyone's seen the design I'm talking about.
Yeah, there's
a look.
Yeah, there's like a lot of drop shadow. There's a lot going random items going on around the outside. Anyway,
yes.
So there's
like 150 different clip art.
Like a Where's Waldo
yes
poster. So anyway, so that's Wednesday. Now this is not an Arkansas Music Experience event, but it's my event, so I'm going to talk about it. And that is the Lantern Sessions that's going on at the Stonebreaker Hotel. I was approached by Specialized Real Estate Group and the Markham Hill folks to, put on an event that was featuring some singer-songwriters and stuff, something kind of special. And it happened to be, we decided to film it and add, I'm always trying to add video to everything, as we have done here. And I'm always trying to capture it because, I'm seeing, you're like capturing a moment in time. I want to capture this stuff on video and archive it so we have these things forever, especially as that is like a historic
especially
place.
If one of these artists become famous and then you
go. Yeah, that's how I'm going to get rich. So there's if you have I talked to them about putting this together, and then it happened to kind of be close to Music Week. I asked if it'd be something we could move to, then they dug the idea. So it ended up being a great spot to land on the Thursday.
Yeah, it's their inaugural event. So
we have
kicking off during
multiple ones, and so it's going to feature more of a little bit more than a listening room, less than like a club. It'll be like a seated experience, but we're going to feature Paul Boatwright, a legend in the Fayetteville music scene who ruled the 90s, if you will, with his band Pumpkinhead, who recently has a show coming back on October 31st. And then another one on November 1st. Yeah. The 31st is sold out, but that's at George's. That's going to be a big one. We're going to have him as well as Avery Lee from the Flims, and she also has her own, solo project and side project that she does as well. So she'll be there, and then it's going to be another performer who's also going to be hosting it is Big Piff, who I always love working with. I've done multiple projects with in the past. He's a rapper, a historian of Arkansas culture himself.
He's been an ambassador for Arkansas because he travels all over the world and does workshops on hip hop and writing and cultural, connections. And so he's just an all around outstanding person anyway. And plus he's a hometown boy for me because we're both from Pine Bluff. So
yeah. So for me, being able to help, curate something with artists that are very different, but they are all real artists.
Yeah.
And working with the Markham Hill people, I was like, are we able to kind of let them dig into their artistry on this and the amount of time that they have, where they might perform, they might do this, they might do that, but let them approach this in a different way than they would their normal show, and take advantage of a filmed experience that will live on in a curated place where there's not going to be people interrupting or anything like that, but also cool, scenic, and there's going to be a scene and a vibe that's set for it. So can they have them put on the performance that kind of matches the vibe that's set? So they've been all about that, and all the artists have been great to work with. I've been able to have Chris Moore with East Hall. He's going to be there doing the mixing and doing the recording and working on that end of it. I was able to call my buddy Chuck Thomas, who I've worked with before, an incredible sound engineer, and getting him together and putting the film team together. I've been able to put together almost like a all-star cast of some of the most talented people I've ever worked with, like in my music career, if you will, to put together something that's kind of cool. So that's the Lantern Sessions. Those tickets are on sale as well, and we'll throw a link up on our website. I'll do that where you can go to when you go to the pages, we'll put a link on there where people can click and go get tickets for that, because there's only going to be limited numbers. I think we're going to do like 125 tickets or so.
Yeah.
So high sellout chance, I would imagine it's probably pretty close to that right now. So
yeah, I mean we're over 60 events, so we've got multiple AME events, but then there's Weston's got a punk night on Friday. Mount Sequoia has they partnered up with Odeon Collective, and they're doing like a vinyl DJ pool party on that Sunday.
Super cool.
Gonna be serving pizza. I mean, there's.
I will say one more AME event. The Sunday picnic.
Oh, yes, the big Sunday picnic at Kingfish.
Yeah, so this is our wrap up the week event, and we'll dig back into some of these events, but this is our wrap up the week event. We were thinking, Kingfish has music on a Sunday. What's a free event that we can just celebrate the fact that everybody had been working all week? I remember when Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue was in Fayetteville, I used to manage bars, and it was a big order, and you'd talk to the beer guys, and they might be on call with a truck that's sitting, and they can service the beer faster if you need it and you need to put in an emergency order. That's where I would like to see this event get to, where like all the venues and everybody's like, they have the whole staff working, they got to hire extra help because of the amount of people that are coming out to see music. So I mean, they came out for motorcycles, why wouldn't they come out for music? So so I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibilities, especially with everybody working together.
This is an area that at least online, everybody likes to pride themselves about this being in a big music area and big supporters of music. So hey, this is the week to step up and show out, because the whole state's watching us now.
There's not a lot of, and I'm not just saying it's us. I mean, there's not a lot of communities that can work together and put together work separately, but in the same direction and work together in the way that I've seen.
I mean, it was an easy process putting this together because, I mean, it took maybe a week before every venue was, for the most part, signed on. And then we had people reaching out to us like, hey, what venues are available? Like, I don't necessarily want to play a show, but can I put together something? And all of a sudden, that's how Corey McKelvey is doing the community jam, or Robert Bishop, is doing the vinyl DJ pool party. So it's like you've got everyone kind of stepping up, wanting to throw something down, So it's like it's great to see all these venues working together, the bands working together, promoters working together, and the fact that our city tourism stepped in and said, hey, we want to do this. And now we're all like one big team, trying to push this event. It just really shows how far we've gotten from where we used to be, where it wasn't quite like that.
So we have Sunday, the big picnic. Mm-hmm. We have Nate Walls Jr. He'll be there serving food from
5 to 6.
5 to
8.
5 to 8. Yeah, you only have 1 hour, but you'll be from 5 to 8. I'm sure he'll be there. If he's got a little bit left, he'll be there. But I mean, that's the time.
Yeah, and then we got music from Justin Larkin at 6, and I think at 9 we've got
9:30.
Sam Fagan and Pete Massery coming in.
Yeah, so that's free. That's the big wrap up event. Come out, get you a plate of food. Nate's gonna be cooking delicious food. And that's going to be the wrap-up event. I'd love to see that event in a big field somewhere.
Yeah, and I need to give a shout-out to Sean Harrison, who hosts the Songwrite Dixon Street every Tuesday at Rogers Rec. That's not a place that typically has a lot of music. It's never really been that thing. But Rogers Rec stepped up, and they've got 7 nights of music, or I should say 7 happy hours of music from like 3 to 5. So almost every day you go in there and you've got someone there from like whether it's Patty Steele or Jeff Kearney. So it's incredible that a venue that's not typically known to do music suddenly just steps up and does music all week. Like a lot of other places should take note of what Rogers Rec has done.
It's been awesome. So if you guys want to find out what shows have been booked, I think didn't you say you just posted the Wave 2 earlier?
Yeah, the Wave 2 just went live. Tons of stuff. All that is at arkansasmusicexperience.com. If you guys go there, you'll be able to click at the top there. It says AMW 2026. If you click on that there, you'll be able to see the full schedule. Or if you want to go to a particular day, you'll be able to see that in the drop-down menu. And then there's also information on the music industry meetups that we were talking about. We were talking about the one in Fayetteville earlier, but we're not just doing this in Northwest Arkansas. We have the music industry meetup. We talked about El Dorado. We've been in Whitewater Tavern in Little Rock, which was, I don't know if that's been our highest attended, but it's been real close. It was a good one. I've heard everywhere from 300 people. Someone told me he insists that we had 500 people because
I heard 5,000
because there were gaps of people coming, like groups of people coming in.
I heard people are still going there, and they're mad that we're not still there. And that event was in June.
So we also just did Conway for the first time. We've got in October
Jonesboro.
We got Jonesboro coming up in October, and we also have a return date for Little Rock in October, which we'll be announcing soon.
I wonder how many people show up to this out of curiosity because we're out of town, and they wonder if we're there to with some type of ill will. When somebody comes from out of town and they're like, well, what's this person here to do? Let's go show up and see what they're about, at least being almost like if we're being taken over by aliens.
I have gotten that a few times, won't say who, but it's like someone will reach out to me and it's like, well, why are you guys doing that here when you're from Fayetteville? It's like, why does it matter?
Because we're advocating for the state of Arkansas.
It's like,
we're asking you
it's like we're not doing anything anybody else couldn't have already been doing.
And it's not like we had some grand design where we thought this was going to be great. We find out things every time that's actually part of the fun of going out of town because we don't know every time. We're like, is this the one that's going to suck and nobody's going to show up?
Yeah, because
every time it's been great.
Yeah, because we didn't know what to expect with El Dorado because we went into El Dorado with only 3 vendors signed up, and we were like, oh man, this sucks. And then we got there, and then 60 people show up, but all 60 of those people work locally in the art scene in El Dorado.
From Joanna or the owner and the owner, I overheard them when they're putting stuff together. I don't know, it might not have been her, somebody. I overheard them when they were like flipping the room and getting ready for our event. And I overheard them. I'm sorry if you guys watch this. I don't mean anything bad by this, but I thought it was funny. They were like, so who are these people? They're from Fayetteville? Do you think anybody will come? And the whole time I'm thinking the exact same thing. I'm like, who are we to go out of town? What if nobody comes? It is kind of weird. We're pretty far from home. And so I think what happened, Kim and I went to get coffee.
I was outside.
Kim's like, let's go get a coffee because we don't know what's going to go on. We went and came back, and we stood there, and we didn't know everybody went in through the other doors. So we're like, all right, looks like we got a stinker on our hands. And then we go in and go around the outside. It's like the room's full. We're like, felt like we've been missing the party.
Yeah. So, but it was like, the people that showed up were, like I said, people that work locally in their art scene. So you had a brand new venue that showed up that had largely been booking hip hop and R&B, but they need to, expand that programming into other genres, and wasn't really sure how to go about doing that. But there's a metal band that showed up from El Dorado. I'm like, well, if you book this guy's band, his band never plays here. He's only ever playing Hot Springs, Little Rock, Conway, and Jonesboro. I go, so if you book his band through him, he'll be able to connect you with artists from those other 4 markets to bring in on that show, and suddenly you'll have a pipeline, of metal bands. And the same thing happened with Monster Boy Lives, who came down to El Dorado. They picked up shows at Murphy Arts. They picked up shows at this new venue, and they're able to start connecting this venue.
I think you can almost piggyback on us personally going to do it. I think that's why the meetups work so well, is because we go make real connections with people like me and you and Kim actually meet the people and make friends with them. And we're not in a band. We're not trying to take other people. It's not like we're trying to use this opportunity to put our band in a better it's nothing like that. So for us, it's been nice to say, Marty in Jonesboro, who, talking to him at the radio station has been amazing to talk to, and he's been a huge supporter. I was talking to
Marty
him
Scarborough from Arkansas Roots on KASU.
Shout out to Marty. So talking to him about, he goes, I think of the reason a lot of artists dig what you're doing is you're actually going to their market. You're not being overlooked. And he said, in Jonesboro, sometimes those artists might feel like they are overlooked.
Yeah.
Because I asked him, I was like, how many venues do you have there? And he listed, he goes, there's 5 or 6 of them. They're just, a lot of them are kind of new. So as scenes start over and new places open, but they have venues, they have bands, they have a scene.
Yeah. I mean, just through the vendor lineup we have for Jonesboro, that is very likely to be the biggest meetup we've ever done. And it's going to be in a city we've never done one in, just because
I don't think I've been to Jonesboro.
Just because the hype going into it is big, and Marty and ASU have been able to, they came to our meetup in Fayetteville, and that was part of the thing. I was like, we were trying to get a Jonesboro show, and it's like, man, just come to this, and it's hard to explain, but once you come to this event, it's going to click with you, and you're going to want us to come there. And then he came to Fayetteville, and then within 48 hours, we're on a phone call with them, and they're like, okay, we're in, tell us who you want to set up tables. And I gave them a wish list. I was like, let's get Johnny Cash Heritage Festival. Let's get King Biscuit. And all of a sudden we had a whole list, and everyone has said yes. So this is the first time everyone we asked to come is they're coming.
It's nice because, when we go to these markets, we're making those connections. So you're only a person away across the state. And for me, once I realize how easy it is to make those connections by going and making it yourself, because, once you make your connection with that person, it ain't like they're going to gatekeep their whole network. You get access to their whole network if they give it to you, if you ask for things.
And the fact that we're also bringing in, we're not the only out-of-town people coming into Jonesboro. Everywhere we go, we're bringing in Dead Party and Arkansas Music Office. There's a lot of people who are traveling around with us that become regular mainstays for our meetups.
We need to get
Bobby from Happy State Co. went down to Conway with us. He went down.
He's like
to
an
Whitewater.
unofficial member of AME at this point.
We had Into Overdose that came to the Conway meetup, and I was like, "Where are you from?" They're like, "We're from Bentonville." I'm like, "Oh, this is the first time you've ever been to one of these?" Like, yeah, we just saw it and thought it'd be a cool thing. I'm like, do you know we do these in Fayetteville too? So now they're going to be at the Fayetteville one.
It'd be awesome to have a traveling circus or something, or a caravan.
Yeah, we all just ride down in one big hippie painted bus, and we just all stumble out at the same time.
All right, so the music industry meetups, we're doing them across the state. Like I said, you guys can find out more there. This leads us to a new type of meetup, a connection, if you will, between film and music that we're doing on October 2nd at the Momentary. Talk a little bit about what that event is and why we are doing that. Why is the Arkansas Music Experience getting into the film world?
Well, Arkansas has a very pivotal moment happening right now, and that is we have a handful of legislatures in the state who are working on a film and music bill. So they are looking to boost the infrastructure on both of these creative industries. On the film side, having a film office can mean the difference between millions or billions of dollars coming into our local economy. Because like when a movie is shot in town, they're not just renting hotel rooms and filling up restaurants. It goes into dry cleaning and catering and, travel vans, all the clothes that they're wearing in the film, the wardrobe, it's all bought from local boutiques and thrift shops, and all the set pieces from furniture, everything is sourced locally. So that's thousands, sometimes millions of dollars sunk into an area like that. So to create a legislative bill that incentivizes production companies to come here and make films, it's a big economic win for Arkansas. So they also want to include music in this. So for like the last 6 months, I've been assisting a coalition of people in the state to contribute musical initiatives to this bill. So far I've delivered 12 items, and I've got a few on the back burner that are still being kind of developed. But we felt that we needed to get ahead of this legislative bill, and October is the general time frame that I believe this bill is going to be out in public to where we can kind of see what's there. But for the most part, the film and music industry in the state are largely separated. We don't have a whole lot to do with one another. But now we're going to have a big reason to work together, because some of the incentives that are in there deal with film companies using like Arkansas recording studios to do post-production audio work, to do their scoring and soundtrack work. There's incentives there to percentages of Arkansas musicians featured in a soundtrack in a film. So we're trying to create things that will keep these production companies from going back to LA and doing their work there, and instead doing it here, and how we can benefit Arkansas with that. So that's why we're doing this film and music event. One, we need to get these two powerful creative entities together in the room at the same time, because most of us are very unaware of one another. And if this bill does pass, we're going to have to all be very aware of each other, because there's going to be an influx of people coming here to make films, and they're going to be needing to use our studios. They're going to be needing to do a lot of stuff with our music scene. So it's just a win-win for the state if this bill passes. So that's why we're doing this film and music connection. Let's see what happens when these two creative elements get in the same room and all work together for a common mission.
I think when I'm making these flyers, and when I'm taking your guys' information, I'm like, I'll bounce things off Robbie and Cam. I'll be like, all right, give me the meat and taters of what I should put on here, and then I'll add my piece, and then we'll chop it up, and then I do like a million different things, so it helps for me to have I don't have to come up with that stuff. So I'm looking at it, and for me, like, I know these things are happening. Obviously we've talked about it, but then I'm seeing it all in one spot, and I'm putting it on the flyer. So I'm kind of the first one to experience this event all together in one spot and seeing it. And so I'm trying to be cognitive of the thought the fact that, a lot of folks around here, even when we were in Conway, when I asked how many people knew what the music industry meetup was, like half the room raised their hand.
Yeah.
So a lot of people that from the music side that's going to this, they will have known what it is, or they will have been to a music industry meetup. But a lot of the people on the film side might be hesitant, and they might not They might be like, well, what is this? Why should I go to this? What if I don't care about, what if I don't work with music? Should I still go to be on the film side of things? And the way I kind of perceive it, we have vendors, and I've had, Bobby from Happy State signed up. Josh with Sight and Sounds NWA have already signed up. Bobby's not trying to make t-shirts. I mean, he will. He's not trying to make t-shirts for movies.
Yeah.
But he'll be there because he does music stuff, but he also has some film stuff as well. So
he could always make t-shirts for film.
He probably does. I'm just using him as an example because he's a friend and he won't cook me on it. But so if you are looking and you are only interested in talking to film people or music people, this is still an event to engage with. This is just a chance that people are going to be in the same room together, and then you're going to meet them. But if an artist is looking for, sync licensing, or if they're looking to find out information on how to get their stuff into films and things like that, would this be a good place for them to go for that?
Yes. Prior to working on this legislative stuff, I had no connection really to Arkansas film at all. I knew people that worked in the industry, but it wasn't like I'm actively involved in that industry or whatever. But since I've been doing this, I've attended quite a few different film mixers, filmmaker forums, Bentonville Film Fest, stuff like that, and I was completely blown away by how many people from, number one, from LA who work in the industry that are now living in Northwest Arkansas, people that work on America's Got Talent, people that work on Lost, all these reality TV shows, there were people who were making films exclusively for Paramount Plus, and this guy got a 4-picture deal to make pictures for Tubi. And then I met another group who their whole gig is making Christmas movies for the Hallmark Channel. And it's that's like a steady gig. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm making 3 Christmas movies a year for the next 4 years. And it's wow, this is happening in Northwest Arkansas.
There's so much more going on than what you wouldn't be able to keep up with it. There's
I had zero idea, and then getting involved in this, you learn that we got something crazy like 18 film fests in Arkansas now. We have a film fest that's totally this film fest is all about LGBTQ filmmakers and topics. This one's all about horror films like Nightmare on the Ozarks and Eureka. This one's all about short films. This one's all about documentaries. There's just film fests everywhere. Each one of these film fests are bringing in thousands and thousands of filmmakers from around the world to showcase their films. It brings in thousands and thousands of people to towns like El Dorado. Berryville has one. It's a much bigger industry here than I ever thought.
We have a Sundance event in Rogers this weekend.
See? Yeah, so this is all stuff that there's Filmland Film Fest next week in Little Rock, and there's Fayetteville Film Fest. There's literally, it seems to be a film fest every 2 weeks somewhere in Arkansas, and every one of these events tend to have very, very well-known people attending it. When I was in Bentonville, I was at a film mixer there, and I'm talking to someone about this bill and our music industry meetups. And all of a sudden, next thing I know, there goes Kevin Bacon and Kiri Sedgwick walk by, and I'm like, oh. So I didn't need 6 degrees of separation. I was 1 degree separation from them, But it's cool, and Matthew McConaughey's going to be in, Little Rock next week. So I understand why there's a need to have either a film commission or a film office, whatever they choose to do. And I'm very appreciative that the state felt the need to add music to this, because I think that if this bill does pass, I think it's going to completely flip Arkansas music completely upside down, and I don't think anyone is prepared for the impact that this would make on our music scene, from a business level, from our venues and our festivals, right down to educational and being able to send kids to college, in-state and out-of-state, with certain tax things being put in place. It's everything that your major music hubs like Nashville and Austin and LA have had implemented for decades. We're on the verge of that happening here in the state of Arkansas, and it couldn't be better timing with the cultural movement we're having with Ash McBride and Jesse Wells and all that. So it's just perfect timing.
So say we're at the end of the year.
Yeah.
We've done, I mean, with the way that they're going, we've done over 500 music industry meetups by December. We will, and they, you know, we'll have, say, Arkansas Music Week goes well. People show up. The scene shows up for themselves. All people have to do is just go. Most of the shows are free.
Yeah.
So say that goes well. Say this music bill goes through and we're sitting in a different situation. How do you perceive, starting with like the Northwest Arkansas music scene and looking in Arkansas and what's possible by this many people showing up for themselves? Do you think that it could elevate not only just like the opportunities, but also like the vision? You know, I was talking to one of my clients today about Music Week, and they're talking about a writer coming in from Nashville to cover Music Week. So like, there's going to be stories written about this and how we came together and did this because it's what we're doing.
Yeah.
How do you think it will help the Arkansas music scene to have shown this much unity on a national level?
That's a pretty good question.
I know it's a wacky and a big one, but
Well, if you look at it like this, you know, prior to South by Southwest, Austin was just generally a town that, hey, we got a lot of venues, a lot of great bands. South by Southwest was basically a launching point for that music scene to go global. And it took a decade or two, but it eventually got there. You know, so when South by Southwest started, it was essentially an outdoor stage, and we're going to collect all the best bands in Austin. They're going to play for free on Saturday and Sunday, and then it slowly built, and suddenly that spilled into the venues, and within probably a decade, Austin became a major music market in the country. Within another 10 years, it became a global music economy, and Texas is able to export their music globally. I mean, a great quote that was told to me by Billy Gibbons was, "Kid, you could be a millionaire in the music industry and never leave Texas." Like, it's true, because their music scene and the infrastructure they have and the different kind of grant systems, the support system, the touring network they have there, I mean, it's like light years ahead away of what Arkansas has been doing. And the first time I went there, here in Arkansas, I didn't need a booking agent to book all my shows. I booked my own shows. When I got there, it was the opposite. Like, oh, you want to play these venues? You got to get with this guy. And once you got to this booking agent, all of a sudden, boom, you're on a loop. And you have the opportunity to, if you want to work twice a day, 7 days a week, tell them, and you will. And all of a sudden, you're doing lunch hour shows. You're doing the happy hour shows.
every time I played in Texas, that's exactly how it worked.
And it was insane.
It's not the murderous one, but there was a Scott Peterson in Tyler, Texas, and he had like 6 rooms. You booked 6 rooms.
I worked with a guy named Lonnie. I can't remember his last name, but he was hilarious because he had like this super permed, like blonde mullet, and no matter how hot it was in Houston, he was wearing like fringed leather jackets.
All these people come with crazy legends.
Yeah. So I was just looking for, an easy way to make extra money. And he was like, man, if you want to, I was like, you and your guitar player, he's like, I can get you guys $600 to do what they called lunch hour happy hours. And it was like, you'd go downtown Houston around the oil district, and you could play any one of these little pubs for an hour during lunch, and we're getting paid $300 each. And he's like, if you want to do a regular happy hour that day, we can. So all of a sudden, I'm making $600 a day. And I was like, being from Arkansas, I was mind blown. So then all of a sudden, like, hey, if your full band wants to play that night as well, we can do that too. And all of a sudden, your full band's playing, and my cut is $500. So all of a sudden, I'm making over $1,000 a day, and I can do that 7 days a week. So it was just like, shit, this is how everybody's operating here.
Maybe that's like our age group is still of the punk rock mentality, where like, well, we're not going to wait for handouts. We're not going to wait for opportunity. We're going to go make our own opportunity. Yeah. We're going to take our instruments. We're going to play right out there in that open spot when there's a bunch of people. We're going to busk. We're going to hand out flyers as people coming out of the university. We're going to put flyers on cars. We're going to do everything we can to play where there's a group of people and not be limited by if there's a venue or an opportunity. We're going to make the venue. And that's a lot of that is what makes Arkansas music experience. They're like, if we see a lack of real music, good business going on, and we see connections not being made, instead of us playing music, we go make those connections.
Yeah. So like to answer your question on what this is going to do for Arkansas, it's going to take a while to put in a proper infrastructure. And I mean the way this bill stuff is kind of laid out. These are small steps to get us there. From sending someone to college, but there's things there where we want to figure out how to protect music venues that have been in operation 20 years or longer with a thing called the heritage tax. Because, a lot of times when you have these kind of things, it's incentivizing, your big music industry to come to town. And a lot of times, I don't have anything personally against Live Nation or Ticketmaster. I don't think they're the best, but a lot of times when you have a national conglomerate come in and buy a venue, they do predatory shit to our local venues. And the first thing they do is they look at who's the biggest venue in town. Let's look at their calendar for the last 6 years. Let's see who they've consistently booked, because that venue has helped develop an audience for this band. And they're going to come in there and they're going to poach that band. And, we've seen that happen in Little Rock with the Rev Room, which is now closed because like a third of their historical bookings went to another venue. So when you buy a ticket for this venue, that money's not coming locally. It's going to Nashville to the other company. So you're going to have a lot more of that. So we wanted to be able to set up a way to be able to support a George's, a Whitewater, a Vino's, places that have been around that, when you've been around that long, you become a cultural institution in that area. Like, I don't think people understand that if we lost a George's in Fayetteville, the impact that would have on Northwest Arkansas music as a whole.
I think it would rip its heart out.
Totally. So there's a bunch of stuff like that essentially, like if this heritage tax can get through, it's essentially a tax on all tickets sold by out-of-state competitors. And it's not like an insane tax. It's like $1. But Arkansans typically buy 2.5 million tickets a year, whether those are to shows at the AMP or shows at Ozark Music Hall or things like Bonnaroo or Lollapalooza, or we're going to go to Tulsa and see a show at BOK. A lot of that money doesn't go locally. It goes elsewhere. So, but off that 2.5 million sales, we can suddenly have $2.5 million that we were able to actually reinvest in our state's music scene. So with that, we want to be able to pay for export grants for our state's musicians. So, because the moment you travel across state lines on tour, you become an ambassador for our state. So we want to help cover your mileage. We want to help cover your food costs. We want to help cover your hotel rooms. It's like if we can figure out how to supply you with Sprinter vans that say Tour Arkansas or Arkansas Department of Tourism or whatever, just to help you get that extra financial advantage to keep doing what you're doing. That's what this heritage tax is for. But again, it's all down to what the legislators want to do and not do. And the moment you start saying, hey, you want to put a tax on a big corporate company like that, you're going to have some lobbyists that push back. So call your legislators and push this bill. But if this thing does go through, I mean, you give Arkansas 5 or 6 years and we'll be kicking some serious ass.
There you have it, folks. It's my friend Robbie. It's been fun doing all this stuff with you. I feel like we've been, I don't want to say spinning our wheels because that might imply that we haven't been getting traction. But I feel like we've been on a mission for about 10 years, and I feels like we're about to get to a point to where, it's one of those things where we're doing something where there's not a lot of people that's done it quite in the way.
It's like we've been restoring a car, and now we're going to take that car on the road and see where that fucker breaks down or not.
Yeah, so it's like there's like it's hard to explain. It's so much stuff that it's hard to explain to somebody in a nutshell. That's why I'm glad that we were able to sit down and just bullet point these out and dive into each one of them, because for a lot of people, they don't know exactly what we're doing and what it's about and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so to be able for somebody to see where it's coming from, where we're trying to take it, and then kind of what the experiences have been like and stuff like that, it's it's nice to kind of dive into it because, you know, it's one of those things where even if you don't understand what we're doing is building community. So if we win, everybody wins type scenario is what we're trying to build and what we have structured.
Yeah.
So that people can experience the music of Arkansas that has given us so much that we can help give it back and kind of make it easier for the future artist as ourselves.
I mean, if you come out to one of our events, like, you're not just helping us out, you're helping out your local scene. I mean, it's not, this is not
a better way of saying
this is not something that Arkansas Music Experience can do on our own. Like, we're essentially just we motivate people to do more than they've been doing.
Like a conduit.
Yeah.
We're just kind of connecting folks.
So it's like, we know there's fire here in Arkansas because we can see the smoke, but, you know, we're trying to figure out where that fire is so we can dump a bunch of gas on it. And so when we go to places like El Dorado, that's what we're doing. You know, that's why we're going to Jonesboro, and that's why we're going to go to Eureka, Hot Springs, and Fort Smith next year. You know, we'll probably end up, I don't know how many meetups we'll do, but I mean, we've got at least 15 cities that have inquired, or they've either had a meetup or they're inquiring about one. So we could probably do 2 a month if we're strategic and had them separated enough to where we're not right on top of one another. But this is not that big a state. So
awesome.
We'll see.
Well, Robbie, thank you for coming on. Thank you guys for listening. This is the Beats by Travis podcast. I'm your host, Travis Smith. If you guys dig what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe. I'm just getting this program back up and going again. There's going to be more episodes coming out, more videos, more content, more telling the story of the Northwest Arkansas music and hospitality scene as well as beyond. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.